Deshaun Watson. He's back in the headlines this morning. The NFL has decided to appeal the 6-game suspension of Deshaun Watson. There are rumors out there saying that they want this to go much, much farther than just 6 games, not just 6, not just 8, but they want an indefinite suspension. AJ, you were the most, I feel like you were the most vocal against the 6-game suspension. So what were your thoughts when it popped up saying that the NFL was going to appeal the 6-game suspension?
So, and I know you're speaking from memory and everything. I was okay with the knowing that was what was coming down the pipeline. My thought process was that the NFL itself should appeal and would be looking for more, because they have to put that out there that they didn't agree with what is going on with Deshaun Watson and what was happening, whether there are allegations or not. 6 to 8 games was what was expected. I guess I did say I wish it was at least 8, so I'll stay there. But I don't agree. I agree with the appeal. I think that's the right move for the NFL to make a statement to show people that they weren't okay with this. They did hire an independent arbitrator. They hoped that she would have came to the conclusion that they were hoping for. That wasn't the case. So now it's on them. If this whole thing is about protecting their shield and making sure that that image stays as clean as it can, I think the appeal is the right move. Now, I don't agree that it needs to be an indefinite suspension. I don't even agree with the year. I think if he gets to 12 games, I would be able to live with that. And I think the NFL would be able to as well. The reason I said to me this is the right move was because even if it doesn't play out the way they are hoping for, I think the message that the NFL is sending, that they don't think that what Deshaun Watson was accused of and what this whole conversation that happened over the past year all took place, that they did not agree with the way that the punishment came down and that they thought it should be a little bit harsher. For it, even if it doesn't shut everybody up, that's another high percentage of people that will at least be like, at least the NFL tried. And I think that's important enough for the NFL that they would make this appeal however it turns out.
Yeah, it's the ultimate. Here comes Roger Goodell in the NFL to save the day, to make sure that justice is served with Deshaun Watson. Now, Aaron, I'm sure you have thoughts on this specific, like the appeal itself, but I want to see your thoughts on something else here. There was reports saying that if the original suspension that came down was an absurd amount, and maybe a year is that absurd amount, or indefinitely is an absurd amount, the NFLPA would also fight back an appeal. So where are we at with that and the NFLPA, and possibly an all-out war between the NFLPA and the NFL?
Well, you're looking at federal court. This is ultimately going to go to federal court if the appeal is overturned in any way and there's games added. The NFLPA is going to file another appeal to the federal court to talk about this arbitration that's taken place. This is a mess, and this is exactly what I was talking about yesterday. We aren't talking Deshaun Watson today if the NFL doesn't appeal. We've moved on. Like that quick, we would have moved on to football. But today we're talking about Deshaun Watson again because the NFL decided to appeal. This is the NFL doing what the NFL has constantly done. Laying in the weeds, trying to play hero and say, we did our best, when ultimately, why did they ever hire an arbitrator? Why did they go to a judge when ultimately all they were going to do is hire somebody else to take a look at the case, and then Roger Goodell would have the ultimate say-so, which he does have in the CBA. So at the end of all of this, if Roger Goodell comes out and says, you know what, we're going to suspend him for 2 years, that's the end of it. Roger Goodell has that power under the CBA to actually do that, and his say-so is final until the players file an appeal and take it to actual federal court. So why did Roger Goodell and the NFL feel the need to go out and hire somebody else to do it? Why? Because they didn't want the responsibility to levy a suspension and then come back and say, oh man, the fans are pissed off about it, we got to give them more. Or the fans are mad, we got to give them less. They didn't want none of that. They didn't want to deal with the aftermath of what the fans' reaction was going to be. What they wanted to do was let somebody else make that decision. And then when that decision came in, they could say, you know what? Oh, fans are mad about it. Let's do something about it. Oh, it doesn't seem to have an outroar or some rage about it. I think we're okay. We can sit back, not appeal, and move on. But because it was only 6 games, because the fans went crazy over it, Women's Foundation calling the NFL and all these members of these groups coming together and pushing the NFL to do something, hey, we need to do something now. Let's file this appeal and act like we're saving face. When in reality, all they're going to do now is hire another outside person to review what this outside person that they already hired did and give another decision. And then ultimately, it's going to come down to Roger Goodell saying, you know what, I agree or I disagree. This is what the final decision is. And then up to the Players Association if they want to take it to federal court. This is a big shit show. It's going to continue to be in the news. And to me, it's just the NFL being irresponsible and not wanting to take responsibility for levying a suspension because they didn't want to deal with the backlash. That's it. And Vinny decided to leave the group because he knows how right I am.
No. I honestly, I saw AJ's face and I was like, oh, I'm going to do I'm going to be a good producer and leave because I thought you had a very good rebuttal coming and that didn't happen. So I read the wrong thing.
Honestly, I had a question the two things, and I'm sincerely asking because I know one of them in my head is hearsay and the other is just kind of speculation of the question. The first is the hearsay. I thought there was something that was in the new CBA a couple years ago that when cases to this magnitude or cases of a certain style, they are agreed upon with the NFLPA to hire an independent arbitrator first. I don't know that that's a fact. I feel like I've heard that talked about at length when the new CBA came out. And then if that's not the case, my other question was, I also feel like there was an agreement between the NFLPA and Roger Goodell and the NFL about hiring an independent arbitrator first and letting it be handled outside of the realm of the NFL's front office. Again,
yes,
all of that is.
I'm sure you're probably right. I'm sure it was agreed upon. But my point is you're Roger Goodell. You are the commissioner of the NFL. And ultimately, no matter how you get there, he has the final say so in the CBA. It's clear. He's the judge, jury, and executioner. If you have the final say so and you don't agree with a 6-game suspension and you know that off the bat, why are we going through this process of letting somebody else make a decision when in turn, you know, if they only give them 6 games, all you're going to do is appeal that. And then you're going to appeal again. And then you're going to ultimately get it to where it's your decision and levy what you want to levy anyways. Why are we doing this? Why are the NFL putting themselves in the situation to do that? To me, it's just like playing a game. It's allowing the NFL to save face because they continue to be the last person to say, you know what, we can read the room and then make our decision and say, this is what's going to keep us out of the most hot water. And that's what they're doing here. They're now saying, we get to come in and say, you know what, we wanted it indefinite. We wanted a year. And it's going to go to some other arbitrator. And if they don't give them that year, or the NFL can say, no, we felt like it should be a year. And then Roger Goodell could ultimately levy that anyways. So I just feel like this is a big waste of time. It's like, I don't want to say it's dragging Deshaun Watson through the mud because he's already been dragged through whatever. But to me, it's just keeping us from moving on. And maybe that's the point. Maybe it's to keep the conversation going. But for me, like, just come to a resolution. If you want him gone for a year, then I would have preferred Roger Goodell to come out and say, I'm suspending him for a year. Let the NFLPA fight me in court. Let the NFLPA fight me on the back end and then let them win. But I'm going to come out and I'm going to say, we want him gone for a year right now. No ifs, ands, or buts. He never put him on the exempt list. The commissioner's exempt list, which he always has the right to do. He never done that. Not last year, not the beginning of this year. So what is the NFL actually trying to accomplish? To me, they're trying to, like you said, protect the brand, protect the shield, and come in as a hero. And I can read right through all that. The NFL does not give a shit whether Deshaun Watson suspended 16 games or 6 games. They don't care. They do not care. They care about the outrage that they're receiving.
This and I'm not going to take credit for this, but this is a full-on WWE move right here, where someone is getting beat up and Roger Goodell comes in to save the day. I've seen it happen in Vince McMahon's world too many times, and Roger Goodell is having that babyface turn and turning into the good guy and saving the day.
There was a tweet. I don't know who put it out earlier. From, like, I think it was Adam Schefter talking about the process in which they can do now. So the appeal process can either, and the commissioner can may overturn, reduce, modify, increase anything that's been put into place. Mm-hmm. And it's final. What's the point? Yeah. So he's going to name who hears the appeal, number one. Then that appeal process is going to happen. Then Roger Goodell can come in and say, you know what? No, this is final. This is what we're going to do. It's stupid.
The other part about it is I feel like it really is, and maybe this is a good thing. that the NFL is making sure that they do their due diligence and they're going through all of the proper steps to make sure that they get the right decision. And even with the fact that they had the judge rule the 6-game suspension and they're saying, oh no, we don't like it. I think that they're just trying to go through all the steps and saying, okay, let's make sure that we have all the evidence. Let's make sure this is being viewed by like the legal system. And I'm not
giving them too much credit.
I'm just saying, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. Let's